Good day. In this video, we're going to talk about data types. So the first data type we will look at, it is the text type. And the second one that we will be looking at, it is the numeric type. Then the third one, it will be the Boolean type. Then under the text type, we will look at the string type, str. Then under numeric type, we will look at three of them, which is the first one, it is an integer. The second one, we will look at the float. The third one, we will look at the complex numbers. Then for Boolean type, we look at the bool, which is bool in Python. So these are the types of data types we will look at in this video. Firstly, we're going to look at strings. So strings are surrounded by a single or a double quotation marks. So let's say we have A, it is equals to Alex. This Alex, it is surrounded by a double quotation marks. So let's say we have now a B, which is equals to a single quotation marks. So inside there, the single mark, it surrounds the name Alex. So these two are the same. So when we print, there's no effect that will be made. So these two are the same. So let's try to print them and see demonstration from this. So it will print Alex. So let's print the second one. It will still print Alex. These two are the same. So we also have a multi-line strings. So let's say we have a Z, or rather let me say C, it is equals to a multi-line strings. We use three quotation marks or a content that are surrounded by three quotation marks. So when I put 3 here, I should put another 3. Then inside there, I can put the information. Let's say we put more information there. So this is multi-line strings in Python. So let's try to print out this. It will print it the way it appears here. So let's try to run this and print to the console. Let's say, so it will print it the way we wrote it in there. So another thing to take care, you cannot take this double quote and make it a multi-line string. So when you put some content there, it becomes black to show that this is not part of the string. So this is a single line strings. These two are single line strings. This is a multi-line string. So in Python, we can also add strings. So when I say, let's take for an example, let's remove this and say I want to add these two strings. So I can say print A plus B. So I should get Alex when I add the two. Or in Python, I can put a comma there. What will happen there? It will be Alex, then space Alex. So this is how strings works in. Let's look at integers in Python. So integers, it is a whole number that is positive or negative without a decimal, and it has an unlimited length. So let's say x, it is equals to 3. This 3, it is an integer because there is no decimal after the number. So it can be, it can be any number of an unlimited length. So we are not restricted to the length when it comes to integers in Python. So we say it can be negative or it can be positive. But in most cases, we don't put the positive there. We just leave it like that. So another thing that we can do in Python, we can use the integer function to cast our variables. Let's say we have x is equals to 3,9, and I want to return an integer from this x. So an integer, we said it is a whole number. So what it will do, it will return a 3. It will ignore the 0.9. It won't round it off. So when I say x here, it will take the 3 and ignore the 0.9. So let's see what we're getting. Oh, I didn't print. So we have to print this out if we want to display on our console. So let's print this out and see the result. What we should get, it is 3. So here mostly people will expect a 4. So in Python, an integer, it just takes the whole number there. So you can also add integers. So let's say I have x, and let's say x it is 3 and y it is equals to 4. So what I can do here is I can add these integers and say x plus y. So it should give me a 7 there. I can also divide, which should give me this number. So if I want to return a 0 here, I should just specify that no, I need an integer here. So it will still give us a 0. So this is how it works. So let's say we want to multiply. We can also multiply in Python. We can say multiply by y. It should give us a 12 there. So this is how we use integers in Python. Let's look at a floating point number in Python, or we can say it is a float. So it is a number that is either positive or negative, containing one or more decimals. So we can say x, it is equals to 4,0. This is a float, or we can put a 4 there. This is still a float. So we say a float can be also negative. So it can be negative 4,3. So you can think of any number that has a decimal. We consider that as a floating point number. So let's try to print this out and see a demonstration about this. So we'll get a negative 4,3. So in Python, we can use a scientific number. Scientific number is represented with a e there. So in Python, I can say 3e3. So what it will do, it will say this is equals to, or this implies 3 times 10. So the e there, it indicates the power of 10. So we can say 3 times 10. No, I want to put there. So there it's e, then to the power of 3. So this it is 3. Here is the 3 times 10, which is the e there, times 10 to the power of 3. So what are we expecting? We're expecting 10 to the power of 3. It is 1,000. Then 1,000 times 3, it is 3,000. So our answer, we're expecting a 3,000. So let's take this and put it in our print function. So here what we can do, we will get a 3,000. So we can also add this this 3e3 with, let's see, 3e3 we can add it to 3E3. So we should get a 6,000. So let's try to run this program. So we will get a 6,000. So I can add or multiply. Also, I can multiply the 3E3. It will give me 9 million. So we can do a lot of operations here. We can divide also. It should give me a 1. So take care here. We are receiving a floating point number. This is 0.0. So this represent floating point numbers in Python. This is how we can use float numbers in Python. Now we look at the complex numbers in Python. Complex numbers in Python are written with a J to represent the imaginary part. So let's take an example. We can have x is equal to 5j. So in math, others they can put an I there, others they can put a k there. But in Python, it only recognizes the j. So let's try to test what I've just said. So we can say print x, and let's try to see what we get. We get a 5j, but let's put a 5i there. Let's see what will happen. It will say invalid decimal literal. So put a k again, it will ignore or it will read an error. So it will say invalid decimal literal. So it is a must to put a j there. So when you put a j, it gives you 5j. Or you can just leave it like this. Let's try to see what will happen. So here for imaginary number, we have to put a number here there to represent the imaginary part. So when you put a j there, you are not telling us what is imaginary there. So you have to put a 0, 1, 2 to infinite number. So we can say 1 there. So here it will allow us to print it out. So when you put just a j there, it will print out an error. So we can add a 3 here and say plus 3 plus 1j. So this is the real number part. So let's try to print this out. It will give us a 3 plus 1j, and we can use a negative number there. If we use a negative number, it should give us 3 minus 1j. So let me try something. Let's say y here, it is equals to 3 plus 1j, and let's try to add these two. So we say x plus y. Let's try to see what we get. We get a 6 there. 3 plus 3, it is equals to 6. 1 minus 1, it is equals to 0. So we can perform calculations when it comes to complex numbers in Python. Let's look at booleans in Python. So booleans in Python represent one of two values, which is true or false. So in coding, we want to find out if an expression it is a true or false, where we compare two values. So the expression should be evaluated. So let's say we have a print 10 is greater than 10. Or let me start here. 10 is equals to 10. This compares if this value it is equals to this value. So let's try to print this out. So this will say true. This true is a Boolean value. So let's say another example, I say it is greater than there. So what I'm expecting, it is a false. 10 it is equals to 10, not 10 greater than 10. So I can say less than, again, it will detect this as being a false value. So these are the basics of using booleans in Python. We can also use the bool function, which is bool bool, then we use brackets. So what it does, it checks the content inside the the type we are trying to find. Let's say we have the string here. So for strings, it will check if there's content there. Let's say we put Alex there. So what it will say, it will check if the string has some content there. So it will say true. So let's try to print this. Put another bracket there and try to run this. So this should say true. Why it says true? Because the string has some content inside there, which is Alex. Let's remove the content there and just print it out. We have to get a false statement. Also, this is true for numbers. Also for numbers, it checks if there's a value there. Or for numbers, 0, it will always be a false. Then a 1, it will always be a true. So that is mostly used in electronics, electricity. So let's put a 0 there and see what we are getting. So we have to get a false. But if we put any other value, let's say we put 1 there, we should get a true. Let's say we put 1000, we should get a true. So this will give us a true value. So I can also put a false here and say false. Let me take it out. False. So what it will give us, it will say this value that you passed in the bool function, it is false. So it will type false there. Then when we put a true, it will say true. Let's say true and run the program. So it will say true. We can also use a none. Let's say none. None means there's nothing. So it will say false. We can also put empty brackets. Empty bracket, what it means, there's nothing there. There's nothing we are receiving there. So it will give us a false value. We can also put these brackets. These brackets will work with them when we do arrays. So let's check there. It will say false. Why is it false? Because there's nothing there. But let me put something and say Alex there. It should say true because the brackets contain some information within them there. And we can put curly braces. So let's try to run this. It will also say false. This is how we can use the bool function. It checks if inside that value or bracket or data type or the information we're passing there, there's a content within it. If there's no content, then we will receive a false. If there is content there, one or more, we will receive a true. So this is how we use Boolean in Python. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, comment if you have any questions, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next coming videos.